One thing that I take very seriously is mentorship. And it's always been part of my life ever since I was a kid when my mom signed me up for Big Brothers and Big Sisters program of America because her and my dad didn't work out quite as she expected. So she knew I needed some sort of masculine male positivity in my life. And her way of showing that was signing me up for this program. Well, I was assigned to a big brother who is still today a mentor in my life. We're talking about fast forward of over 30 plus years, which is why I think that this episode is so special because this person here is someone who has been in the game for 30 years in the acting industry and grinding out. And he has been very instrumental in my development as an actor coming out of grad school at NYU. Any questions I ever had, he was always there to answer them. And if I needed to meet up with him to get real specific, he always said yes. So I think it's very important to have people like that around you who are game and who are able to guide you in ways in which you probably felt like you couldn't be guided. And this guy is very special to me. And I'm happy he was able to sit down and have a conversation about the very topic I'm speaking of is staying in this game, keeping your mindset sharp, keeping your skills sharp, and making sure that you continue to pursue the thing that you've always wanted to pursue in life, no matter if it's acting or if it's welding. Keep at it and keep going. And this is one of the things that I learned here. So take a listen. Welcome to In the Waiting Room, a podcast that invites professionally trained actors, especially those from institutions like NYU, Juilliard, and Yale, to sit down and speak candidly about life between the big breaks. It's a space for honest conversations about faith, craft, career, family, failure, identity, reinvention, and the quiet resilience it takes to keep showing up when the spotlight dims. This podcast was born out of my personal journey from a troubled high schooler finding purpose in theater to a discouraged undergrad who nearly quit acting, to a seasoned NYU trained performer who's booked meaningful roles but still finds himself in the waiting room of the industry. So come along on this journey as we speak to actors across the broad spectrum of theater, TV, film, producing, directing, you name it. This is In the Waiting Room with Rashad Edwards.
Great to be here. And actually, I was on my way over here. I was thinking about separate from this. I was in a coffee shop. I was like, man, like August will be 30 years. 30 years in the game. Yeah, yeah.
So when you were reflecting on that, what thoughts came about in your mind where you were like, oh, well, I'm just old now. I might as well give it up.
No, I'm proud of the fact that I've made it this far. It's on another note. I was fortunate enough to do I sort of alluded to it before with a film premiere. A film premieres very shortly, and I was at the screening of it, and I was looking at pictures of myself and how gray I am. And as an actor, you always think about these things like, should I like color my hair or whatever? And it's tricky for me because I might, but it's also these grades are well earned, and I'm proud of it's been a battle. It's like grades of stress, grades of hard work, and so I'm proud of it. So for now, it's going to stay. But yeah, it's. I was reflecting in turn. Just I was proud of the fact that I was still in it, that I've been still in it. I've met a lot of amazing actors over the years, and for whatever reason people sort of step away, and it's never, to me, it's never been a failure to step away. This industry is tough, and you sort of also have to think about sort of the things that are important to you. I have dear friends who've left early, because they wanted something better. You understand? We all love acting, right? But I listen. I've been doing this for 30 years. I can tell you that I spend far more, the vast majority of my time, chasing jobs than actually working. And so the beauty is when you are working, but we don't, if any actor would love to wake up every day and work and act, but that's just not the reality of even the most successful actors don't get to do that every day. And so you have to understand that.
Why do we feel like it's like that for actors that are always working? Do we feel like it's because of their exposure, that we see them in everything, that we think that they're always working?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was talking to my agent recently about this, where he said an actor came up to an actor that he knows, he doesn't represent him, came up to him at a opening night of a Broadway show and was sort of complaining about the lack of work. And this particular actor, I'm not going to say his name, but this particular actor is works a lot. And my agent said to me, he said, like, you're telling me about how much work you're not doing. It's like, nobody knows that. Nobody, I think he said that the actor said, I haven't worked in 2 years. He said, but no one knows that. It's like, we see the show that you did, we see, a show that you filmed maybe 3 years ago that just aired last year. We don't know that. And I think that's been the case actually for me too. It's sort of like I've definitely, this last couple of years actually been really rough for me, but people, he was saying that to me. He was telling me that story to remind me that the people don't know, that you haven't worked for a couple of years. And I'm proud of the work that I've done, and I think I've done some like pretty nice profile stuff. But I think even folks who are sort of, our fellow actors who maybe aren't working at the level that they want to, I think you can say the same even for them. It's like I did an off Broadway show recently with someone who was sort of talking about, oh, I don't know where my next gig is going to come from, and I think she's amazing. I've seen her in other stuff, and so in my mind it's like she's always working. So it's not to say that it's not true. It's like we understand that when we go through big pockets of not working, but yeah, it's sort of we also spend a lot of time paying attention to what people are doing, and so we, even in our best moments, in our best of efforts to not compare, sometimes we sort of look at ourselves and say, oh, I'm not working, but that person is. And you really don't know. You really don't know when that person last worked, what jobs they lost.
It's kind of hard not to, though, because you're in a business that's about visibility, it's about exposure.
It is. And that's one of the things that if there's one thing, there was probably one main thing that, you know, again, 30 years in the game. So I come from a different time, a different sort of, the industry was different when I first started. The industry is different now than it was 5 years ago. And you have to sort of evolve and change. And that's, we hear people say it all the time, but I will tell you that even as much as I give that advice out, I struggle with that. And so, in part because it's changing constantly. And I'll say that my biggest challenge in recent years is this idea of visibility and having to sort of stay visible. My thing has always been just do the work and everything will sort of manifest. And I still believe that, but there seems to be more of a pressure to be visible. I went to this film I said that's coming out soon, and it was interesting where I didn't recognize a bunch of people who were on the red carpet. And then I realized later, as I looked them up later, I was like, oh, these are all influencers. They're not even actors. They're not even fellow actors. I saw them, and it was sort of, and the way they were sort of doing the red carpet and how they looked, I was like, I should know them. It's like, I literally was like, I'm not watching enough television. I'm not watching enough film. they must be in some play that I should know. And then I looked, I was like, oh my God. It's like I'm on the red carpet with, I would say there were my castmates, and then everyone else were all influencers. And so, it was really sort of, wow, like, this exposure thing is definitely shifted. And how do I feel about that? And and immediately you're sort of like, what do I need to do? And I was like, I don't know if I need to do anything, or should I? So that's sort of the process that I'm in now.
That's a really great segue into my next question. Did you know at the time, did you know that you needed to go to grad school in order to be an actor?
Well, it's so I tend, my younger self was, I want to say I was more conservative. I don't know if the conservative is the right phrase, especially nowadays. Um, it may, I probably would say conservative, probably more say maybe I was a more strategic, or maybe more of a realist. All this to say, I discovered acting later. I didn't discover that I loved acting, that I wanted to be an actor, until I was truly introduced or immersed. My mother would say something different. My mother would say that she, put me in this summer camp in first grade, and she's like, I knew you had it in that, which is true. But I wasn't thinking about becoming an actor until I was truly introduced to it in my senior year in high school. And I said, oh, this is kind of cool. And, as I'm being a political science major and pursuing being a lawyer in college, maybe I'll take a acting class here or there. And then I realized I was taking more theater classes up at Binghamton, which you're very familiar with now. I started taking more theater classes than political science classes. So I truly got the bug to act in my sophomore year in college. And then by my junior year, I said, I want to be an actor. And so my thing was, I want to be an actor. This is new to me. I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready to just go to New York and pound the pavement. I think I need, to be more immersed in it for a little while, and see what happens. So that was my journey towards making the decision to go to a training program. And so, over the years, I've been very clear that that was the best choice for me. I think it's unbelievably courageous and brave for people to just jump into the pursuit of acting without like going to a training program. I think that's brave. I don't think it's stupid. I think it's brave. I wasn't brave enough to do that. The other thing I say, both to people who go to training programs and those who don't go to training programs, is I think there's a larger percentage of working actors now who went to some sort of training program, who are working now, than it was when I was in school. But that said, I also say, but let me remind you all that like there's a high percentage of people in our industry who are working and doing well, who didn't necessarily go to a training program. So it really is, for me, a personal decision. I didn't think about it at the time, but there's definitely the business side of it, in the context of, it's great to have the opportunity to come out of school and right away have a showcase and get to meet agents and managers and all that stuff. That is extremely helpful and useful.
Great. So the business side. What did you learn coming out of grad school that you know now that you wish you would have known when you were a student in grad school and on your way out, that would have prepared you for the business of acting?
This is probably more in hindsight and sort of where I am now. Well, not now. I think I knew this, several years into the biz. I don't think I realized this right away. But as the more I think about it now, is the understanding that auditioning and the audition process is extreme. There's three differences: training program, acting class. If you don't go to training program, acting classes is not the same as being on set. It is not the same as being in rehearsal. And then on top of that, auditions is a very different animal from being on set. And I think I say that or from my vantage point, in that if I look back, I probably should have spent more time honing my audition skills. I got a lot of, I think I would say I got a lot of good jobs because of the in the room, the work that we did in a lot of jobs that I got, the work we did in the room, in the audition room, happened to be situations where the director, the producer, the writer, the casting director, something about the environment felt like a rehearsal process or a scene study process. But a lot of times it's not that. A lot of times you got to go and do the thing. And I can say that probably like several years into the game, I realized like I don't really like a lot of jobs I got was because of his, it was like a rehearsal vibe to it. But just straight up auditioning and just sort of doing the audition, it is a skill that it took me a while, took me a long time to sort of master. And with the understanding that then you book the job and it's like, and then it has nothing to do with the other.
How do you do that? What's the recipe for having that state of mind going into an audition and saying to yourself that this is the audition technique to get the job?
Right. I'm going to speak primarily just because I've primarily done television and film. If I'm being honest, I have done a lot of television. So I'll speak to that, which is to say that I don't know that I've really mastered the theater audition process, is what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I don't think I've done it consistently enough. I think that the television, I think that the key to the two things that stick out to me with the television auditions is, and film, is really being unafraid to take your time. Like I would, like I'm finally in a place now where when I have a good audition, I really can slow it down, be present, just live, like not worry about the lines, and just really just sort of live. And but I think I spent a lot of time early on just sort of like, let me nail the lines, let me nail the timing of this. And that's important. But what's really sort of important, I think, is sort of your presence. You want to sort of grab them. And part of it is really just about slowing down. I think the other thing is, especially coming from a training program, is there's a desire to sort of give to your partner. Whereas with television, and it really is about, again, this sort of leans into the being still and, taking your time, really sort of making people lean in, not being afraid to give things less voice. And that's a tricky thing because, there are people who give less voice, but doesn't mean you're not active. It doesn't mean that it's not alive. So a lot of it was about a stillness that I think it just takes a lot of practice, sort of understand that, sort of how can you sort of stay active in people and keep people sort of interested. And a lot of it is really being unafraid to let people watch you, just sort of, take some time to really, it's the thing that whenever I get good feedback, it sort of feels like people felt, the casting director or director felt like I was really listening, and not just listening, but sort of internally assessing what's being told to me and really considering everything is being said, as opposed to like, you're giving me this and I got to give it back to you. It's like, no, you give me something, I want to think on it for a little bit. How do I feel about it? Be distracted and then respond. Television in a lot of ways, it is a rhythm thing. There is a fear of silence in television. And so I think it's actually what they, at least in the audition room, really because when they can cut it down. Like when you get the job, they can cut the time off. they can sort of slice that down, but like to really sort of be there and slow everything down, slowing down, just really slowing everything down.
That's a major key right there, especially coming out of grad school. I know for me, it was like you're throwing everything at you. You get 3, 4 auditions in a day, sometimes several pages of sides, which they can't do anymore. Um, they have to give you at least 48 to 72 hours prep, depending on the length of the pages.
They still break that rule, by the way.
Yeah. But that's sort of like, I gotta get this in. I gotta do this right. You're ready for work. You're ready to prove that you're investing in yourself the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And so, and you get excited. And there's also the natural excitement about getting a job. And so that also sort of gets the motor running in a certain way where it's sort of, I'll just, even on a basic, I tend to now go in for a lot of detectives. And so understanding that, the lines are important, but, it's a detective show. And so what they want to see is you sort of just looking around and sort of taking in the environment. It's really about that. And then responding, you know? So can you do that as opposed to sort of just showing?
Do you feel like you've made it?
No, no one's ever asked me that. So I'm taking my no back because when I first, when I was, early in my career and I would talk to younger actors, I would say, and I believed it, your decision to become an actor, your decision to commit to this business is the success. I would be very specific where people went through a training program. It's very difficult to be accepted to a training program. And so to get through those 2, 3, or 4 years, depending on which program you go to, and get through is a major success. So what I used to say is like, you made the decision to become an actor. You've gone through this process, at least early on in terms of a training program. So you made it. So that's what I used to say. So if that's what I said, then I have to take the no back. But I'm very proud of the career that I've had, the work that I've done. I just want more. You should always want more. I remember an acting teacher who was actually, if I'm being honest, he was a jerk. Good, but a jerk. But he would say, this is when we were undergrad, every actor should want to be center stage, should want the spotlight on them. And that's true. And I'm always going to want that. So I'm always going to try to pursue that to the best of my ability. And
what is that spotlight? Do you have to be the lead guy, number one on the call sheet?
I think it varies for each person. For me, it's the way my career has gone is I've done a lot of wonderful supporting roles, it's like there's the thing of what number you are on the call sheet. I've made it as far as like number 3. I want to be 1, and it's like I would love to be 1 day, so that's my goal. It's like I want to be number 1 on the call sheet.
How do you feel about actors younger than you that have been number 1 on the call sheet already?
I think that's great. I think my thing has always been, this is a difficult business, and it's going to get difficult for anyone at some point. So if you're 10 years in the game, if you're 15 years in the game, I know some people with 20 years in the game and then they get this shot, God bless. If you got it straight out of school, God bless. I am telling you that I've met people who got this shot from the get, from straight out of school, and eventually they hit a rough patch. Everyone does. And so when it happens is not,
Have you had yours?
Oh yeah, I'm actually in it right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think Peter J. Fernandez.
Yeah, yes, I do.
We were actually at an event 2 nights ago, and I told him, I said, he was like, "How's it going?" I said, "Man, I've been in this 30 years now. These last 2 years have been the most difficult for me." even like more even more difficult than my first couple of years. And that's a lot of it just has to do with the fact that the game has changed so much. I'm you know, I'm terrified for, and I is when I say I'm terrified for younger actors starting out now. When I say that, I'm saying that sort of with perspective of, wow, like if I had to jump into what they have to jump in now, how would I have done it? They'll do it. Like, the youngsters will do it. They'll figure it out. Stronger, smarter, they'll be great. But considering, everything, considering the cost of living, considering, we talked briefly before we started about commercials. It's like I started with people who were like, yo, like, in 1 year, a guy would book like 3 commercials, and he, like, no lie, is like those 3 commercials got put my kids through college. That that's gone. Like, that doesn't happen. And so, it's things are different. And I, like I said, if you're young, it's like I think that they're smarter, and they understand the game in way that I don't, and so they'll figure it out. So this is just what, with some perspective, where I'm just sort of like, wow, this is, how would I start this now? So where I am now, it's sort of like recognizing how much the game has changed, and so here at my age, 30 years in, it's sort of like, wow, I got to figure out, I got to figure out how to, shift again and evolve.
What have you done to get through it all?
It's, and this is just me, again, I'm stating the obvious, this is just me, but I'm always sort of, you know, there is no, the blueprint is you. So therefore every blueprint is different. So this is sort of something that I hope can speak to some people, but it might not speak to others. My, my, one of my, I think her, Stephanie Lane. Stephanie Lane is,
My
she's,
class.
yeah, she's my go-to coach. And she's sort of having, she's at a point in her life, in her career, probably similar, since you all started around the same time. And I was thinking about her recently, and I thought, what's the thing that kept me going and what keeps me going? And for me, it's family. It's sort of, I have a 9-year old, I have a 15-year old, I have a wife. I lost my mother last year.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Thank you. And sort of, I realized that the inspiration to go get the job earlier in my career was just sort of focused on, I want to do this. I want to be in this movie. I want to be on this type of show. I want to compete, with whoever the competition was at the time. It's like, I want to go up, I want to go in for the same parts that they're going in for. Now it's just like, I want to rep my family, like I want to walk in, and, both my kids, I don't, like I said earlier, I don't do a lot of theater, and I did a play last summer. It was the first play I'd done in a while. And I was like, oh man, like they both get to see me in the show. And so I was excited about the opportunity for them. I was excited, when I was doing the show, it was no longer about who, what agents or managers or producers are going to the show. It was like, my kids are coming. So that's sort of, that's the new sort of inspiration and motivation, just to sort of do the best work I can, do stuff that they'll be proud of. So that's what gets me through now. That's what keeps me sort of driving. I want them to see me do work, and also it's like, I got to put food on the table for them, which is very different from, I got to, keep a roof over my head for myself. It's like, now it's for them. So the motivations, the inspiration changes, and that's where I am now, and then it'll change again.
Yeah.
You know,
That's amazing. I tell people that when I started grad school, I was already married. My son was 6, right?
right,
So I was like, man, what am I getting myself into?
right,
But I knew that I needed to complete it. And I knew it was something that my son would look back on and say that he was around when dad did this.
yeah,
And he came to the shows. He remembers many of the shows that we did,
yeah,
and people remember him. So having a family and something to inspire is very, very good and important. People like you gotta have that. You can't just chase a career and not also chase the thing that's going to keep you uplifted and inspired, like a family.
Definitely. I remember when my daughter was in first grade, her mom is an actor as well. And her mom was off, I think she was early in her career and she was off doing, I think she was looking at a regional job, a regional theater job, I think it was. And I was trying to figure out whether I should stay home and be around my daughter more. And we had a great teacher, and she was just like, "Listen, like, you want to, you want to show your kids, like, you want to inspire them to do certain things. It's like, so, don't think of it as, oh, I'm leaving my kid. Like, your kid may see it, will see it as my dad, my mom, they're pursuing the thing that they love, and, just let them know that you're coming back." And it was great. It was really just, it was great to hear her say that. I was like, right. It's sort of like, it's not, you can make, it's fine. You can make the choice to sort of say, I want to be home with my kid and I don't want to go away. I think that's great too. But it's also great to be like, you know, showing them it's like, go chase your dreams, and I'm going to chase mine, and you're going to watch me chase my dream. And it's great now because now that my daughter is 15, she's, when her mother is like, premiering a movie or in a television show, she beams. Like, she straight up just sort of was like, did you see mommy's poster? Did you see my movie? Like, and it's like, yeah. So she's always beaming. So
Is she gonna be in the business?
I don't think, not as an actor. I think she's a fantastic writer, and she has a great eye. We went to see a show at, I think it was South Coast Rep, and I didn't think the show was very good. And we laughed. I was like, "Ah, that was rough." And she was like, "Actually, no, I like this theme and this," and she can break stuff down. She's an amazing eye, a wonderful writer. So I think that she has the writing bug. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll see.
She can write something for you.
Write something for me, yes.
Has there ever been a project where you know it paid well, but once you got it, once you started the job, you regretted it?
No, I've regretted it. No, no. I can't think of anything now that I regret doing. I'm proud of the fact that I'm not sort of, it's not like I walk around saying I'm going to accept this part, or I'm going to consider this project and not that one. I don't do that a lot. But I definitely, I give these projects a lot of thought. I think about them a lot, and in that context of like, am I, even things that I'm not sure that I'm gonna like, and like, I really think about what's the benefit of me doing this. And it could be anything. It could be anything from, I get to work with this person, or there's a writer here that I really, admire and enjoy, so I'm gonna work with them. I get to work with them. But yeah, if there's anything that really I don't feel good about, like I I have to really not feel good about it for me to pass on it. And so even if I've had a bad experience, it's not with regret. It's like, oh, this wasn't a great experience, but I got to, I know why. I really give it thought. It's like, why did I take the shot? It's like, these are the people I wanted to work with. I wanted to work with this director. I wanted to work with this writer. I wanted to work with this actor. I wanted to work in this venue.
You mentioned that you were strategic, and I'm wondering if actors should be more specific about the type of work that they want to do.
Yeah, I did say strategic. I probably should say more. I think I'm more thoughtful than strategic. It's sort of, I give it a lot of thought in terms of, how will this fulfill me? Definitely, how will this, help my career? Yeah, it's because you're going to run into situations where it's not going to be a good production, or you're not, you know, things aren't going to go exactly the way you want, and you want to be able to look back and say like, well, why did I decide to take this shot? I was like, and you can always lean on that and understand why. So I would say I can't think of, and definitely there have been projects I worked on where I think of one project where I couldn't, like, I hated the director. Like, he was a nasty human being and we didn't like each other. But Lorenz Tate was the lead. And I was like, I got to work with Lorenz Tate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I got to work with Lorenz Tate. It's like, it's fine. It's like, it's fine. It was only like a week of work. It's like, yeah, fine. It's like, yeah, I got to work with Lorenz. I can say that I worked with Lorenz Tate. And thankfully it wasn't just that I worked with him. He was phenomenal. Phenomenal human being.
You always see things having a silver lining.
Yeah, I there's another thought I had recently. I've been sitting here, I'm thinking of, I think I'm in a point in my life where I'm sort of, I'm very, like, I reflect on a lot. And so another thought I had recently was about, I can think of one play that I've been to. Now I'm back in the theater realm for a second. In all of my years, there was one play that I saw where I couldn't find anything good to say about it. Can say anything good about the performance, the production, the story, nothing. And I remember it, and I was like, that was awful. I have nothing good to say about it. Outside of that, I've always been like, you can always find something good. You can always find a good performance, a good moment that hits you, like, an interesting sort of thing about the storyline. Like, you can always find something good to say. I think I was thinking about in the context of, when you meet people after the show, and like, I've been with people who's like, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to meet them because they didn't like it. It's like, you can always find, there's always something. If you're invested and pay attention, you can always find a positive out of a story. I really believe that, going back to the sort of the successes, making the decision to be an actor, it means a lot to me, and because this is such a hard business. And so I think we have to remind ourselves, we have to remember how difficult it is, so that when someone, does a play, or when someone decides they're going to, produce their own short film, like, you have to start with congratulations. Like, congratulations, you did it. Because it's so hard to do it. You have an idea to, you know, I'm going to, produce a play, or I'm going to, like, do a one-man show, or I'm going to, like, direct a short film. Like, congratulations. Like, when they get it done, it's like, you did it. You have to start with that because it's so hard. And the celebrations are so few and far between that you have to celebrate every accomplishment. I believe that.
Yeah, that's right. You have experience producing, right? You're an executive producer on a project.
Yeah, this was I had always been interested in, so I co-produced a play, actually co-produced two plays in Los Angeles years ago, but I had never produced a film. And so this project fell into my lap. Someone asked me, they wrote a script and they were interested in me for the lead, and I loved the script, and I loved it so much that I thought this might be an opportunity. This might be the place to dive in as a producer. And it was also, speaking about being sort of strategic / thoughtful, it was initially going to be, two of the producers had produced a few times. I was like, okay, great. I don't have to go in like not knowing anything. These two people have worked, this married couple, they've done this before, had a lot of success doing it. So I can sort of lean in on it. I was like, I want to come in as a producer. So everything sort of seemed to sort of fit right. And they actually had to leave the project, but I still stayed with it, and it was great. It was like a great, and they still helped us out. They sort of gave us a lot of advice, things to think about. And again, sort of like, congratulations to me. I finally got to do something I had been saying I wanted to do for years, but never sort of took the chance. And this time I did.
So, did you want to do something like that earlier in your career, like producing, let's say when you were working on King of Queens?
I, I thought about it, and I just, again, it never came to fruition. The reason why it didn't come to fruition was I wanted to write and produce something, and I got to be honest, it's like, my writing was trash. I wrote a couple of things, and they weren't good enough. And when I say, it was, oh, you're being too hard and stuff. No, no, but I know what I wanted and I know what was important to me. And I relied on people who I really trust as like, and I actually look back at it even now and just like, oh, these were terrible ideas. They weren't worthy. And so I was also very honest with myself and sort of like, I know that I was like, I really think I'm gonna be a good producer. I don't think I'm a good writer. No way. So I was like, I need to find someone else who's gonna be, who's gonna write a project for me. And that's a hard thing because writers are trying to do their own thing. So it's very tricky to find someone who's gonna write for you. But then I finally lucked out. So I knew that I tried the writing thing and it just wasn't. It's just not. I'm very honest with myself, and it's like I know that I tried directing, and I was an okay director. I tried writing, not a good writer, and then I tried this producing thing. I actually think I did all right.
Where can people see it?
So right now, there's two streaming platforms that we're in talks with. I would definitely let you know when it's going to be showing. Very excited, actually. It's the offer came. So we filmed it. We premiered it in 2023, and at the last festival we did, which was in June, we were approached by a streaming platform that does like exclusively like short films, and so we're in talks. So we'll see how it goes.
What's the film about?
It's called the film is called Dig Deeper. It's about a grave digger who has like self-esteem issues and someone sort of takes advantage of his insecurities. But it's very funny.
No, that's great. Listen, although that NYU pairs us up with a buddy or a mentor upon graduation, you were there, and I really appreciate that, especially when I didn't have the ones that I was paired up with.
Appreciate you, man. Indeed.
In there.
All right. This is good, bro.
Yeah. All right, people, that's it for today's session here in the waiting room. If you got something out of this conversation and you find value in this content, whether it made you laugh, think, or take notes, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend who's grinding toward their own dream. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next drop. And if you're on YouTube, smash that like and the ring bell so the algorithm knows we're bringing the heat. On Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a review. It's free, it takes 30 seconds, and it helps this show reach more folks like you. Until next time, I'm Rashad Edwards reminding you the wait is never wasted when you're working on your craft and yourself. See you in the next one. Peace.